Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Okay, so last week was a big conversation. We got so much feedback from people. We really took a deep dive into the science and the research of these vaccines. So this week, we're actually taking a little bit of a different approach, but we're definitely still, going to be diving deep into understanding what is best for us. And the approach that we're calling is watch, wait, and learn. It actually reminds me of my high school cheer. I was a cheerleader. It was like, stop, look, and listen. And I think about that all the time, which is so funny because so often I'll be in the middle of something and I swear to God, I'm like, stop, Lavinia, just stop. And I think of that high school cheer. And that's kind of where I got with this. Like, we've got to stop. We have got to watch what's going on, wait, and learn. And we're calling that because let's face it, most of us, whether we want it or not, are going to have to watch and wait until we can possibly even get our hands on this vaccine. But as our guest today will tell you, that might not be such a bad thing. It actually might be a really good thing because it's going to give us an opportunity to really prepare ourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally for what comes next. Our guest today, she's already a friend to all of us on Conversations with Our People. She's been on before, and we've had an amazing feedback with her. She's a functional medicine expert, doctor, and an author of an upcoming book, Into the Heart of Health. I'm going to say that again, because even when I say it, I'm like, heart and health just like land so profoundly for me. Into the Heart of Health. Dr. Evelyn Leone is going to help us to take a positive, specific, and very important immune boosting, inflammation reducing, health enhancing steps to make sure we are ready for every option that comes our way. And it's interesting because one of the things I love most about functional medicine, and functional medicine has been in my life for over 12 years. I've been going to a functional medicine doctor, like I said, for 12 years. And before that, I was actually with a functional medicine nutritionist, which I'm going to share a story with you later on. And what I love about it, it's really about the connection. It's a deep connection to mind, body, immune system. We won't always be living under the shadow of COVID. But the advice we're going to get from Dr. Leone today will serve us long after COVID is over and give us the type of immune system and responses to help us stay healthy and survive anything that Mother Nature throws to us. So today, let's welcome my very dear friend, who I miss so much. She moved to Florida. And it's just not the same not having you here. Girl, I miss our beach walks. I miss connecting with you. So Dr. Evelyn, welcome back to Conversations with Our People. So before we start, it's kind of a ritual that we always do to take a couple of deep breaths. And I know you're going to talk about breath work because I know that's one of the things that's in your toolbox for really keeping your patients on point and healthy. But as a community, let's take big, deep breaths. Let's take in love-filled, health-filled, joy-filled, possibility-filled breath. In for 4, hold for 5, exhale through the nose for 5. Inhale. Hold your breath. Smile. Exhale through your nose. Inhale. Hold your breath. Exhale. One more. Hold your breath. Exhale. Okay.
I saw that this is how you start, Lavinia. This is wonderful.
Yeah, so good. I don't know, for me, like I like to start meetings like that. I just like to start things. It kind of just helps ground us, right? So that we can really hear the other person that's talking, let us receive, let us kind of be calm so we don't get into a reactionary response in our life. I mean, I don't know. Breath work for me is just, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have it, honestly. Feel very blessed to have been introduced to it years ago. So we're going to jump right in there. So I want to start out by asking you. So I guess I want to start out by asking you whether one decides to take the vaccine or not. What are some of the important ways that we can prepare our bodies, our immune systems for this vaccine? Because I have to believe that if our bodies are stressed out, are unhealthy, are on the verge of getting sick, and then we take any one of these vaccines, like, dang, it isn't going to be good for us. So let's like talk about that. How can we really prepare ourselves? Because for many of us, we're going to be preparing ourselves over a couple of months because we're not going to be even have access to this probably for 2 or 3 months. So let's like look at that first.
Actually, whether we got the vaccine already, or we're wondering if we're going to get it, or if we're waiting to get it, it's the same answer. It's exactly what you said before. It's our immune system. And we cannot underestimate the importance of the immune system. This is what I have done for many years with my patients. And I've seen over the years, as I was treating them, that they were having less colds, they were less vulnerable to disease, or even if everyone in the family would get a cold and would get sick, they wouldn't get as sick. And that's because we've been working on optimizing the immune system. So I haven't necessarily addressed that it was the immune system we were boosting, but when we prevent cancer, we prevent cardiovascular disease, we are building a stronger immune system. And the things we're doing with nutrition, exercise, supplementation, hormonal supplementation as well, are calming the mind. All these contribute to the building of a strong immune system. We don't want another active immune system, and we don't want another active immune system. So some people have autoimmune disease because the immune system is overreactive, it's dysregulated. So it would hit in all the directions and then create all this reaction against the self. And this is when we attack our own cells with our immune system. That's why it needs to be very balanced. And so, I've always been fascinated by what's inside our body, and this is why I became a doctor. The immune system is completely fascinating. I mean, this is our line of defense. Literally, we have all these cells that are lining up to defend us, to mount a war against any invader, anything that comes in that the body doesn't know what to do with. And those cells are called, they're white blood cells. They are the components of our immune system, and they're called killer cells, macrophages, which means big eaters. And then you have the helper cells, the natural killers, and all of them get together just to get rid of those viruses. We want this to function well. And we are born usually with immune systems that are very strong and are here to do that work. But as we go through life and are susceptible to all the toxins in the environment, the food, as we were talking earlier, is not what our parents, our grandparents used to eat. We don't get the nutrients. We are not supplied by what we need to build very strong cells. And the cells of our immune system are very important. So all this supplementation has become necessary. That's why I'm so happy that, that functional medicine is really the medicine of the future, because we need to prevent and we need to rebuild ourselves, not just jumping to a medication when something is wrong. We need to take care of ourselves in different ways. And our immune system needs certain supplements, needs certain, also stress is a big problem with the immune system because stress produces a lot of cortisol, and cortisol inhibits a substance called histamine, which is needed to mount the response. Because when the histamine comes in, this is when the white blood cells get the signal that they have to attack the invader. So if you don't have enough histamine because your cortisol levels are too high because you have too much stress, then the immune system goes down. And there are many things that can lower the immune system, but this one at least we can control.
Yeah, I love, this is what I love about functional medicine. You know, yesterday I was watching I always do a little bit of extra research. I was watching some, different podcasts, and I was watching one, but one came up that looked interesting with like my favorite comedian is Tiffany Haddish. And she actually did a podcast with Dr. Fauci. So when I saw that on the side, I was like, oh my God, I got to watch this right now. Like, because, he's just like a little bit more conservative and is always in his little blazers. And I'm thinking, so I'm watching it, and it was just, she's just so natural, and she was in her joy, and she was talking about how she lost 20 pounds, or maybe it was even more, like 40 pounds, and how great she felt, and how she's working out, and how she's taking all these supplements. And she was kind of like, especially for the African-American market, she's like, yeah, I'm not so sure, like I'm comfortable taking this vaccine. So I know that right now I'm just keeping my immune system high, and I'm taking vitamin D and vitamin C, and I'm taking zinc. And man, like she was on fire. Like she was so excited. Like you could feel the health. She was glowing. And then he says, well, there's no scientific proof that taking that is going to do anything for the immune system. I'm telling you, I swear to God, I just wanted to like punch him through the screen. I'm like, no, like, why do you have to say that? Even if you just say, oh my God, I'm so happy you're taking control of your health. Like, that's amazing. Because you know what? Like he said, just get out in the sun more. And I'm thinking, like, I've heard of lifeguards that are literally out in the sun every single day from 8 o'clock until 4, and their vitamin D is low. So it isn't just about like going out in the sun. Like our bodies are getting depleted of these nutrients, so when I hear that, I'm telling you, I was just like, why are we sending people this message? It just infuriated me. That's why I'm even more passionate about talking about this stuff, because people really need to understand that, like we said, the soil was not the soil of our parents 75 years ago. The food wasn't. The quality of the air wasn't. We are being bombarded by, radiation of cell phones and computers. And like, there's so many more things that are making our environments toxic like they've never been before. So we have to adapt. Like, it's like, we've got to get it real. Like, we got to get real. So,
it's my debate. It's combining holistic and conventional medicine. I come from conventional medicine, and I know exactly how I used to think. And if there was not something that was proving that we would save a life, we wouldn't consider it. We haven't thought so much in terms of prevention in conventional medicine, and this is why we are where we are now. This is why before having COVID, we had an epidemic in diabetes, which we still have, cardiovascular diseases, because we don't do enough prevention. That's what it is. We don't, I come from France. I grew up in France, and when kids are nervous, we give them magnesium. We give vitamin D, we give vitamin C all the time. We just give those things as prevention. Winter comes, we know we have to take more vitamin C. It's just a given. Those are things that we know and we grow up with. In this country, we just have, that's what I was taught. I studied medicine here, so I know exactly how we think as conventional medicine doctors. And we are here to resolve a problem once it's here. And we are doing a great job at it. I mean, conventional medicine is fabulous. If you have a problem, we jump on it, we do the right thing. But how many people come with aches and pains and little things and just want to prevent from catching the cold and go see a doctor and get a recommendation? Nobody. That's why I went out and did what I do, which I end up helping people with real medical issues through this as well. But a lot of it is prevention and wellness. I mean, how good is it to feel bad all the time, to feel fatigued, and eventually down the road, those symptoms are going to bloom into a real disease. So all those things that we do in functional medicine are usually not considered by conventional medicine because they're too busy saving lives and they don't have the time to study those things. But we know that people who have low vitamin D and most people who get who are in the hospital with COVID have had low vitamin D. I mean, a lot of people have low vitamin D, I know, but still those with the lowest vitamin D are more susceptible.
Well, what I think it's interesting with you is that you've had a couple of patients that have had it, but because they've been your patients, they were already on vitamin D and they were on good vitamin C. And so share with us a little bit that when they got COVID, I mean, it was sort of not such a big deal because they'd already had a very strong, they've been your patients for a couple of years. So share with us a little bit about
that. I mean, of course, I have HIPAA. I cannot talk too much about it, but my patients who got the virus did very well. And, it's true that a lot of people are doing well with COVID anyway, but I can tell that it has helped because I know where they come from. And had they gotten the virus at that time before we were doing all those things, I don't know what the reaction would have been. And so everybody did well, and I boost them up. I gave them more of all those vitamins, and they stay on the regimen, and they recovered pretty well. And so far I haven't heard about any long-term effects. They're not fatigued anymore, and they're doing fine. Yes.
Well, I remember in my 20s, I was prone. I mean, I guess first I was kind of prone to allergies as a kid, and then the allergies would go into them before I was known. In my 20s, I would get these sinus infections. And when we first opened Equinox, I met all these amazing clients, and a bunch of them, especially the ones that were maybe 10, 15 years older than me, there was a group of them, especially women, that were just like exceptional. Like they were really healthy and vibrant and so youthful. And when I befriended them, they all went to go see this nutritionist in New York, Oz Garcia. So I remember, and they were like, you need to go see him because, again, I would have these dark circles and these sinus stuff constantly. I mean, I couldn't be without a box of tissues wherever I was. That was just like me and a tissue. Like my brother would go, I know Lavinia is here. I see her tissues. And I was like hating that. And I went to see Oz and he's like, all right, like we're going to change your diet. And I had what I thought was a pretty healthy diet in those days for sure. I was definitely low fat, probably no fat, taking the skin off of my chicken and, eating like that. Anyway, and he said, I want you to get all this blood work done. And I went to my traditional doctor at the time. He was, a great internist. And I remember telling him what I was doing. And he said to me, well, Lavinia, I don't think it's going to really help your sinus infections. He goes, but it certainly won't hurt. So go ahead and do it. And, we changed. That's when I went from, went on to gluten-free and, just making those kind of changes, dairy-free, things like that. And you know what, like, and quercetin with vitamin C and just the whole litany. I did some vitamin drips initially to kind of boost up my immune system. I've never had another sinus infection again. He was teaching me how to use, the neti pot, and it was like every bathroom I was in, I had a neti pot and it worked. But, now I don't ever go around with a tissue. So it's like, I know this works, like it works. It is definitely works. So, yeah, like, I mean, even I know like with chemo, very often, certainly not traditional oncologists, but there's the more alternative, will basically recommend for patients to fast a few days before they're getting their chemo treatment so that the cancer cells even weaken. And then when they do the chemo, because we're still going to do the Western medicine for sure, but when they do it, they're noticing it has a better response. So that's sort of coming out there a little bit. I know we certainly did that when my husband was doing his treatments. And I mean, they said he had phenomenal results. They never expected him to have the results that he had after his 3 month, once a week or once every 3 weeks treatment, because he had it in the brain, it got in there, and they were like shocked. So, I think, so what would you say? Like, we know that, is there a pre-game cocktail that people could take before the vaccine?
Probably. But going back to the fasting, actually, it's actually fascinating. And I just sent a newsletter about it because fasting stresses the cells. The goal to rejuvenation, I'm always looking into anything that can help us regenerate and rejuvenate. And there's been a lot about intermittent fasting. So a lot of my patients are on that now, because not to lose weight, not because it's not really the recipe to lose weight, but to stress the cells. Because when we stress the cells, we make them more resilient. So starving the cells and, starving is good for us.
Mhm.
So I know it sounds silly to say that, but it's true. We tend to think that, every time we're hungry, we have to eat. Wait a little bit. Let your cells become stronger. That's what I would say. And that's what we do with the breath work also. When we do intense breath work, we stress the cells. When we hold our breath, we deprive the cells of oxygen, and then suddenly this afflux of oxygen. So that makes the cells stronger, and fasting is one of them. And when you do the chemo treatments, it's good because it helps detoxifying. As far as the virus is concerned, I'd say we need nutrients, we need food. Especially if you get sick, don't fast.
Right.
That's not a good idea, right? You absolutely, actually, with pneumonia, people need to overeat. It's a good idea to
Like
overeat.
what, when you say overeat, I mean, of course, we don't want people eating.
Overeat is a good thing.
But
Yeah,
like, is
not
it like, do they want to focus more on vegetables, or do they need more fats, like olive oils and avocados? Like, what would you recommend for that?
Well, it's always a good idea, but remember when people are sick, especially when they lose the sense of taste and smell, it's really hard. So whatever they can eat is good at that point.
But what's the ideal? What's
The
the ideal?
ideal is lots of vitamin C, citrus, and greens, lots of greens and vitamin C. All those alive plants are bringing energy and all these vitamins that you get, no matter how much the soil has, it's still good. Then,
What about like the green soup?
yeah. I love those green soup, the one we used to do in the retreats, right?
Actually, what I think we'll do is there's an amazing green soup that Dr. Levry,
Yes.
that Make It Nom. And I think what we'll do is like, let's get that recipe and we can put that on there too. And it tastes great. And it really is a healing. It's like, I actually have a friend of mine that just got out of the hospital. And I told her this morning, I'm going to find somebody to make this soup for you. And for 2 weeks, like, let's just get you back by drinking this amazing healing soup. So those are good, right?
Greens are excellent. And if you can add a little bit of chlorella to it, chlorella is very good. The other thing that, we talked about, and is that concoction that we do with hot water, turmeric, ginger, clove, all these antiviral herbs that we put together in a cocktail, and adding pepper, because pepper is also a strong antiviral, and it helps absorbing all these herbs. And this can be helpful too, you know, things like that, that we tend to think, oh, those are just herbs that we add to our foods. They're actually very good. Curcumin, turmeric is very good. It's an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. And reducing the inflammation in the body is one of the main things we want to do.
Well, they definitely put that recipe on.
Yes,
on
yes.
I've used that a few times when I've like when my throat was bothering me this summer, or and I text you and you gave me that recipe, and you know what? I really liked it. It tastes good too. So
It's good and it helps.
yes, it did. It was very helpful.
Yes. So I'd say, to answer you about how we can prepare better in optimizing the immune system. So it's not a one thing. It's not a one day recipe. It's really starting to take care of ourselves in a different way, thinking, becoming conscious about our immune system and what it needs on a daily basis. Maybe taking a little more of it right now. Like, you know, I usually put my patients, unless they're deficient, I usually put them on 2000 IU, international units. Those are not milligrams, international units of vitamin D. But right now, especially if they're deficient, they can take from 5 to 10,000 a day.
Right.
And it's a good idea because it takes time for those vitamin D levels to go up. So it's a good idea to boost it right now.
Right. And the other thing is, I think, you know, the difference between functional medicine and traditional is that when you get your vitamin D test done, the blood work, and they'll say, this is the range from here to here. In functional medicine, I know, you know, my doctors always wanted me like on the high range, like really on the high range, not on the low range. Because I have so many people, they'll send me their blood work and they'll say, look, I'm all normal. And I'm looking at it and going, yeah, you're like normal low, like you're on your way to not being normal. But the fact is, they're like, but that's good. I'm like, no. Like that might be good for your Western doctor, but I'm telling you, in functional medicine, you want to shift this. And that's why you want to go to, you know, see like Dr. Evelyn, because, you know, you want to, right now, more important than ever, we need that to be really like off the chart strong, for sure.
On the low end of the spectrum, when you look at the labs, you survive. On the high end, you thrive.
I love that.
That's what it is, really. So as for vitamin D, you're not deficient unless you're under 30. But it's too late. When you're deficient in vitamin D, you already have symptoms. You're tired. You're less. Of course, you know, you're more vulnerable to illness. But there are a lot of symptoms that can be resolved just by taking vitamin D. So it's quite an amazing vitamin. And vitamin C, you can't go wrong with it. I mean, vitamin C, we need lots of it. It should be the main vitamin that we get from our foods. It's good for our skin too. So you know, when my patients want their skin to look good, I tell them vitamin C is one of before you take collagen, take vitamin C, because you need vitamin C to bind the collagen. So that's the first thing we should have.
Well, it's even like a lot of now, you know, everybody's taking glutathione, but really, which is amazing. But glutathione, if your vitamin C is high, very often your body will make the glutathione.
Yes.
You know, so it's like, it's interesting how vitamin C really is the precursor for so many other things. Like, so I love that what you're saying about vitamin C. And like Doug said last week, that doesn't mean those energy C's. Not like we're talking about the good vitamin C, right?
I'm amazed how much you know. It's incredible. You do your groundwork to help people. I really appreciate that.
You know, this has been my hobby. Like, I don't know, like I feel like I was doing, you know, I was taking spirulina at 17 years old. Like people, and then I remember taking garlic, alicidin, and I mean, it was so bad. I remember being in an exercise class, and I was like, wow, like somebody over here really is stinking. And I moved to the other side of the room and I'm working out. And then I put my head down, like, oh my God, it was my own sweat. I was like, this is shocking. And I ran home and I saw that the pills that this nutrition, or not nutrition, somebody in a health food store gave me, they were all garlic. And now I'm sweating this garlic out, but the scent that was coming out was so offensive, you know? So I, you know, like this is like where I've been playing, my playground. And then it turned into like my hobby. Then it turned into my obsession. And then, I mean, it's just what I love. So I feel like, you know, and, you know, it's interesting because I love it so much. And I find it interesting about our bodies and how our bodies heal, and the mind body connection and the food connection and the sun connection and the mind work. Like, I just want everyone to feel the joy of that, because there's something so magical. Like, to me, it's so magical to be able to, like, to have some sense of control and joy in being healthy, you know, like, I don't know. I know that may sound goofy, but I'm just so passionate about that.
No, it's actually what I talk about in my book, how health is a vibration. Health has a vibration of joy, because when we feel healthy, we are at ease in our body, and healthy means mentally and physically, both. We're so at ease that we're naturally joyful. You know, it's hard to create joy. If you ask me for a recipe for joy, what is the recipe for joy? It's different for everybody. And even I don't think we can tell, if I get this, I get that, I'm going to get joyful. Joy is a spontaneous reaction, and health creates that. So it's quite amazing. And taking care of our health is really number one. So I think that's, you know, when we make a list of priority, that's the thing that should be at a complete top.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I have another question is, and we're going to just go back for a second to the vaccines. So, all right, so we're watching and we're reading and we're learning and we're building our immune systems to make sure that we can handle taking it, not taking it, getting COVID, not getting, you know. So first of all, like, we have 2 vaccines out there right now, a third one coming. So share with us on the third one coming, what your opinion is on that one.
Which one do you mean, the third one?
Johnson, right?
Okay. Oh, yeah. You mean, so we have Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson Johnson, and so there are different mechanisms, and yeah. So the second version of vaccines that is coming now, up to now, we didn't have the data that we have for Pfizer. Pfizer was really 95% effective at preventing the disease. So people wouldn't catch the virus. With the other vaccine, people would catch the virus. And that's why it was coined as being only 65% efficient. And so it was discouraged people from getting it. However, now we are looking at things differently, because we are looking at the people who actually caught the virus and they're not getting that sick. They just get, you know, very mild flu symptoms. So, but on the other hand, we're preventing a lot of deaths with the virus. So that's a less invasive virus in the sense that it's not directly going into the RNA. And the real question about this RNA vaccine is, there is something that can transcript, it's a reverse transcriptase that can turn that little part that we put in the RNA into our DNA. Does it do that? We don't know, but there is a possibility that it does. Chances are it doesn't, but we don't know. The other virus, the other vaccine, I mean, is something, it's new, it's a new technology, but it's something that we know more about. It's just putting.
Is it a hybrid? Is it a hybrid?
It's kind of a hybrid, yes, but it's more based on what we know. And the big fear with that size of vaccine is that it would eventually cause autoimmune diseases. But it's in, it's very unlikely, but it's one of the things that scare people. And we know that the virus itself, now we can see that in the long hauler and the people who have had the virus, that it predispose more people to autoimmune diseases. So we know that it does that a lot.
Mm.
The
So
vac-
we know
the
that the
vaccine
people,
doesn't, so it's much better to take the vaccine than getting the virus still.
yes, for sure.
Hmm.
I mean, look, I mean, we did our show last week, and then I remember like 2 days later, I'm reading the news, and there were a couple of politicians that already had their 2 vaccines, and they tested positive.
Yeah,
So,
because
I mean, I don't know if it was a matter of timing on the second vaccine that they were exposed. And, I think the other thing is when people, I mean, I see it here. I had somebody come over and he didn't have his mask on as he was coming up. And I looked outside my window and I'm like, and he goes, "Oh, I got the first vaccine." I'm like, put the mask on because I think it's giving people this false sense of like, I'm good. I got the vaccine. I'm thinking, no, if you're coming into my house like that, then you're going to other places like that. And as far as I'm concerned, you're going to be a high risk, So
they
I think,
still have to wear the mask, and no vaccine is 100% efficient. What we're doing in medicine right now is preventing death. That's the main thing. And
prevent,
that's the goal.
right.
That's the goal. So it's a very personal decision because uh, we are faced with a virus who we don't know what it does, and I've been very surprised to hear about people dying that were in good health. So we don't know, and because of that, we want to prevent deaths, and that's what we have right now.
Well, I think it's also interesting because I know a couple people that have taken the vaccine, and the people that I know that were like, this is good for me. Like, I'm taking this vaccine. This is good for me. I want to get out of like, I need more freedom. I need to go. Like, they took the vaccine, and you know what? For the most part, they really didn't have any side effects. But then I noticed the people who took the vaccine and they were like, oh, I don't know if I should do this. We don't really know what it does to our body. These are people that are definitely on the front line, and they took it and they were like definitely ambivalent about it. I just noticed like they got migraines. They definitely got some wicked side effects. So I do think there is that mind part of it. Like when you are going to take this, you just have to see this as being good for your body. Like you've got to viscerally feel it. You've got to visualize it. You have to see that this is healthy. This is good for me. Because I think that mindset, as crazy as it sounds, it definitely makes the cells do something different. I mean, don't you agree with that? Or are you going to go, she's a wackadoo, my little friend Lavinia?
No. Psychosomatic disorders are real. Whatever we think, we can create. Yes, and that too. And yes, it's very important to welcome whatever substance you put in your body, because if you're stressed when you receive it, again, it's going to go against you because you're stressing yourself and you're creating toxins in your body. So I think, whatever decision you make about the vaccine, it's yours. And once you decide to get it, look, people who are staying home, who are not going anywhere and make the informed decision of not taking the vaccine because they want to wait, I understand. Now, if you decide you want your social freedom again, you want your life back, and you want to go somewhere, even with a mask, but you want to start traveling, then get the vaccine and be okay with that decision. That's what I would say.
So I want to just touch on one other thing that people always talk to me about, and I don't feel like I'm so great at explaining it. We know that we want to keep our pH high in our body at times like this. So talk to us a little bit about pH, how that affects the immune system, What are the things that deplete us of our pH? What are the things that actually give us good pH? I mean, I know for a while there, everybody was drinking high pH water. I'm not even sure. I was definitely one of the first people to have that Kangen machine in my house. I'm not sure if it really did anything, but it certainly made me feel like I was doing something good. But just talk to us about the pH and how that affects our immune system in our body.
Well, it's related to inflammation, because the lower the pH, the more inflammation you have. The more inflammation you have, the less active your immune system is going to be. We always advise people who have had cancer or who want to prevent cancer to have a higher pH, to achieve a higher pH. When I say a higher pH, an optimal pH is between 6.5 and 7. A lot of people have a pH of 4 and 5. You know, you can check with those little strips. And maintaining that pH all the time is not very good, because it creates more inflammation in the body, and it also allows cancer cells to thrive more. So that's why we want the pH to be higher. And to
I
get
have a question on that one. I have a question on that one. I'm remembering when I first got into this whole pH thing, the person that introduced to me would say coffee creates a more acidic environment. So that was the beginning of, and I would actually drink a cup of coffee, and I don't remember, an hour later, I would go and take my little urine strip and go pee on my urine or put it in my mouth. And I would actually see that it would change and I would become more acidic. But then all of a sudden, 5 years after that, Bulletproof coffee comes out. And now the entire world is drinking coffee. And oh my God, this is the healthiest thing in the world. Like all of a sudden, coffee, became a new superfood. Like, what's that?
Well, I love coffee, so you're talking to the right person. Well, because it's combined with MCT oil in the Bulletproof also. But coffee has actually some good effects on memory. And the studies have been done only on postmenopausal women so far, but I'm hoping to see more. But it does help boost memory. So, there's nothing.
But it does also make you a little acidic.
Yeah, it does make you a little more acidic. I mean, that's why you don't want to overdo it. But if you compensate by eating a lot of greens, not having a lot of meat and dairy that make the pH very acidic, it's all a matter of balance. But I think having a cup of coffee in the morning, there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, we need to boost that memory after a certain age. It's a good thing.
Right about that.
Younger women usually have more trouble tolerating the coffee. They get palpitations, and they need, because it depletes the magnesium. And so when that happens, just take a little bit of magnesium.
All right, so let's just talk a little bit. I know you're a big endorser. I know you do it yourself, a breath practice. And I know it's something that you even sit with your patients, and I'm sure now you're doing it via Zoom, to actually teach them breathing. Like that's part of your toolbox for your clients. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's a buzzword these days. Everybody's talking about breath work, but I don't know if people really understand what it physically does to the body that actually makes it so powerful and so great.
But just talking about the pH, when we usually breathe very superficially in our society, as we have gone, because we're so busy, we don't take the time to breathe. It's as simple as that. So we don't take the time to inhale fully and exhale fully. And that's why I love that you started with that. Because right away you can feel that you have more mind clarity, you feel more calm. So just that little thing that we did at the beginning is an example. But what I like is to do some more intense breath work.
So could you just would you mind if we just did a few minutes of a more intense breath work to show everyone?
Let me think. What can we do in a few minutes? That would be yeah. We can do the one that is very good. And Chris Como was advising people to do it when he got pneumonia to expand his lungs. That's what his pulmonologist told him to do actually, and it helped him recover faster because it circulates the blood in the alveoli, and it competes. The virus is actually interfering with the oxygen binding on the cells. So when you breathe and you circulate this blood flow, it helps, it competes with the virus. So the one we can do is the chest breath. You want the chest breath when we
Yeah.
inhale? Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so just sit still, and we're gonna take a deep breath in our chest and inhale. So inhale and feel like you're expanding your chest. Inhale some more. Inhale more. Inhale until your lungs cannot take it anymore. Inhale and feel that chest opening, and hold it and exhale.
Wow, that feels good. And how many times would someone do that?
So we usually do that 2 or 3 times. And then we do it a little faster. So we inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale.
Exhale through the mouth, right?
Yeah, exhale through the mouth. Oh, my neurology mentor used to say something. He used to say, a sigh has saved many lives.
Oh.
There is something about sighing that is so relieving. And because people hold their breath so much. And when you hold your breath, your pH becomes acidic, right? Because you're holding all this, that carbon dioxide that needs to be released. So you are really turning your body into a more toxic place. And when you exhale, you just think that you're just letting go of all those toxins. That's what the sigh does. So when you inhale, hold your breath, you put your cells under stress, and then you exhale, and then there's a blood flow and flow of all the nutrients that comes to your cell, and that is very nourishing, and it's regeneration.
Mm.
I mean, the yogi, have known that for a long time, and that's why they live so long and they're so healthy. They can hold their breath 2 minutes, sometimes more, and they knew that the less breath you take, the longer you live. And we do the opposite. We don't even realize because we're not in touch with our breathing, but most people are breathing very, very fast and very superficially.
Amazing. Okay, so one last thing. So often we talk about fear and how fear creates a lot of stress, inflammation, a imbalanced nervous system. It actually affects, I believe, the liver, the function of the liver. Fear kind of does something with the liver. So I know you also work a little bit with that with your patients to really help subside fear. And how do you address that? In which way? And I feel like, we're living in very fearful times. Like people are very fearful of, number one, the pandemic, what's going to happen financially, like how are we ever going to recover from what we're going through? People don't have jobs. Like how are some of the traits as a doctor really? And I think of you in my heart as a yogi because I know you have a very strong yoga practice, which I admire so much. And it's what keeps you so calm and rational. And that's one of the reasons I always love spending time with you. Like even during this whole um, pandemic, like those beach walks, it was your energy that is just so calming. And it's like, wow, like I would leave a walk from you and just feel like I just like was in a spa for 2 hours. You just have that way of just making everyone just because that's your energy, that's your vibration, that's your breath. Like I probably am even breathing deeper because without knowing it unconsciously, I'm following the breath patterns that you have, which we do all the time, right? Like we do have a tendency to follow that. So talk a little bit about how you incorporate that into your practice.
Thank you. It's practice. It just as you do it lives with you, and it becomes kind of second nature because you don't have to think so much about it. At the beginning, when I was doing the breath work and meditating, I had to think, oh, I need to go back to that place and do that. But then as you keep doing it every day, it becomes part of you. It's true. As far as fear goes, so I really address stress in my practice. People, tell me I have stress, but some stress is good. And I always differentiate between the two forms of stress. There's a form of stress that's stimulating, that we need to accomplish certain things. And there's a form of stress that is not good for us. And that form of stress that is not good for us is coupled with fear. Whenever there's fear associated with the stress, when instead of being fueled by stress to do something that we enjoy doing, we start thinking about the future and the past, and some worry comes to mind, this is when it affects you negatively. And that's what I want to avoid with my patients. I tell them, let's see where your fears come from. Let's see how we can deal with them at a psychological level, but also there are some fears that you cannot take off your minds. I mean, the fear of death is in the back of our mind all the time. We live with that.
Well, what's so interesting is like the fear of death kind of holds you back from living fully. So it's like, it's such an oxymoron. It's like, I'm going to fear death because I'm afraid to die, but while I'm here, I'm not going to be living fully because I have a fear. Like it's pretty crazy.
Yes. And fear gets in the way of living.
Yeah.
It's the way of everything, basically. Yeah. So we don't always have an answer on how to get rid of fear, but breathing helps a lot. And that's what I found out. That's why I put out those programs on breathing. And there's one of my programs that is called Don't Take Fear for an Answer. Because we're in the midst of this pandemic, and if we keep being fueled by fear and reacting to it, what are we doing with our lives, really, instead of trying to just get rid of those fears? So we have to basically, as Dr. Levy says, breathe louder than our thoughts. I like that, because this is what it is, because our thoughts are making us fearful. If we breathe louder than them, then they're gone, And Wim Hof does that too with immersing people in ice. And he said, you have to get to a level where you can't think anymore. And it's aggressive to go into icy water, but it's good for you. We now know that brown fat, actually there's a whole research on that prevents cardiovascular disease. And that's what we do when we go into cold water, we build brown fat. So just an aside, but breathing very strongly and very deep, anything that brings you in the present moment, that moment where you don't think about the future, you don't think about the past or anything else, but this present moment is a place of non-fear. Yeah. And we want to be there as much as possible to regenerate, because yes, we don't want to be insensitive to what's happening. We can't anyway. We're not cut from the world. So we have all this information coming in, but we want to be shielded. And that's a way to shield ourselves.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, you were just talking about that deep. I was like, okay, after the show, I'm going to go outside and I'm just going to do some of that deep breathing. Oh my gosh. Dr. Evelyn, thank you so much. I want to keep to my commitments. I know you have a 1:30 appointment, and it's always just sheer joy to connect with you, your beauty, your calmness, your wisdom, your knowledge, and really your heart. And that's why like your book, Into the Heart of Medicine, is so like on point, because girl, you are all heart always. So I'm so excited for you. Tell us when your book is launching and how we can get it.
February 11 on the new moon.
Right.
And I'll send you a link because for a certain amount of time, get it through my publisher, and then it will be on Amazon. And
Okay, great. So we'll put that information. We're going to put a bunch of other really amazing, yummy, informative information from Dr. Evelyn. And again, thank you so much. I'm just so grateful for your generosity to show up and help make people healthy and happy and informed. Amazing. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. I have on two of my yogi friends who I just adore. And Dr. Evelyn knows them as well. I have Renata and Alyssa on, and we're really going to break down on like how to be healthy like a yogi. There's definitely going to be some techniques and some methods and some stuff that's really different. And when you use some of those, which both of us do, it really makes a big difference to just add these little bits of yogi techniques into your life. Really helps keep your body, your immune system, and your mind really, really strong. So I'm really excited for next week's show. All right, thanks you guys, and have an amazing week.